Welcome, everybody. Jeff Panis here from Innova Disc Golf, and we've got a very special guest today. I have known him in the 6 years that I've been at Innova. He's been a presence in everything we do with media and with the team. If you're ever out at Oak Grove, probably a good chance you've seen him out in the fields teaching people how to play the game. He's known for one of the most famous shots ever thrown in disc golf, and he is a very popular presence in disc golf media and tournament coverage. So welcome in Philo Braithwaite. What's up, Philo?
What's happening, Jeff? Thanks for having me on, man.
Man, it's overdue, and you and I, it's been a while since we've just had a little chat together. So excited to have you in the group today, and excited to catch up and hear what you're up to.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We've had so many people come into the game in recent years, and you're a very visible face in disc golf. So there's probably a good chance most of these people have seen you, but for those who haven't,
hard to miss me, right?
Well, that's right. Exactly.
Sorry, I had to say
it. But for those people who don't know who you are, give them an introduction into Philo Braithwaite.
Well, my name is Philo Braithwaite, PDGA number 26416. I started playing disc golf. My first experience was at the end of 1999, and I became a PDGA member in the year 2004. So my first few years of disc golf experience were playing random flip dubs at Oak Grove with all the local crushers at the time and losing a lot of money. And when I got tired of losing all their money, I started practicing and losing all my money. I decided it was time to hit the wood shop, as one of my band instructors used to say, get into the old woodshed and get to work on developing some real skills, man. And I spent a good 18 months playing more disc golf by myself, throwing around random fields and parks when I was a courier for the movie studios in LA. Then I played rounds. I just was by myself all the time, and I would take my bag of discs, which were just a complete mix-up of brands and styles of discs, and I would force myself one shot at a time. You're going to throw a hyzer from this tree to that tree, and then from that tree to that tree, and I would do that for hours and hours and hours on end until I couldn't mess up throwing a hyzer. And finally, I decided I'm going to start playing some tournaments, and I won my very first official PDGA event at El Dorado in 2004 as a novice player. Everybody called me a sandbagger, and from there I bumped up to Amateur 1, played about a half a season as an AM1 player, went to AM Worlds in 2005 in Flagstaff, Arizona. I ended up getting 15th place out of 300 competitors, and said, they gave me my prize at the end, and it was $300 and something in script. And I just kind of laughed and said, man, I'm playing for prizes, man. I'm a 25-year-old man. I can't be playing for free plastic. I need to figure out this professional thing, I got to figure this out. I got to get myself on this tour somehow and try to make some money. So the very first tournament I played was, it was just the Las Vegas Challenge now. I can't remember what it was called back. Gentlemen's Club, 2006. And about a third of my way through my round, Sam Farrens walked up to me and said, hey man, we've been hearing a lot about you. We like where your game's going. How would you like to be sponsored by Innova? And that was a no-brainer for me, man. Innova was, and still is, the leading manufacturer. All the best players, all the champions had been associated with Innova. All the players that I looked up to, all the players that I knew at the time were all Innova represented, or all representing Innova. And that was a no-brainer, man. I was super stoked. I was happy to get in at the ground level and get my box of 50 discs, which were mostly rocks and putters, and a few shirts to wear on the course to look kind of like I knew what I was doing. And from there, the journey really began, man. 2006 was the year that it all really started for me, where the passion for the game went up tenfold. My desire to learn, my desire to improve, my desire to be the best that I could be, whatever that was going to be. That's where it all started. And, the last 15 or 16 years has been so surreal. It's been the journey of a lifetime. And I'm very grateful for the support that I've gotten from Innova and all the rest of the disc golf community, just in general, being very welcomed into to this lifestyle, into this world. And, I've gained more than I could ever describe from being a part of disc golf.
You're known for one of the most famous shots in disc golf history. Some of the people here may not know what that is.
Right.
Talk about that moment and the trajectory of your disc golf career afterward.
Yeah. So the albatross was definitely a game changer across the board. For me personally, it gave me a new level of respect in the disc golf community and a new level of excitement for disc golf in general. So it was like a double-edged sword. It made me feel really good, and then it really gave the disc golf community something to talk about and something to share. And that was huge. That moment was particularly special for me because my parents were there. One of the few events I think that was one of the first times they really traveled to come watch me play. And to be able for them to be, a part of that moment with me was really special because I'm sure they had a lot of doubts about what the heck am I doing out here throwing frisbees in a park, losing money every year or breaking even at best. And, they really couldn't see the fruits of my labor. Let's say that, that they were like, are you really sure you know what you're doing, man? And I'm like, I don't know, but I really love this and I'm going to follow it until the wheels fall off, you know what I mean? Until I have no other options and I got to choose something else. But I'm really in love with this game. I'm passionate about it. I love where I'm at in this game. And, for that alone, that moment was especially important and special for me. But it was very surreal, man. Like you don't really, I guess, imagine something like that happening to you. You don't really think, oh yeah, I'm going to do this one thing, like you, as a golfer, it usually doesn't boil down to the one thing. I guess I feel like people look at the body of work, and all the greats before, were all world champions, that was the standard, and I had so many people, like Chris Brophy say, man, you won the worlds in one shot, and I was like, I guess I did, I never really thought about it that way, but it really did change the trajectory of my career. It put me on another level as a sponsored player. Obviously, I was on the champion team for the majority of my career, and that gave me the opportunity to hop on the star team. And I utilized every last bit of what that contract offered me because this was the goal, was to be a touring professional disc golfer, to get to go to all the places, to get to participate in all the tournaments. And to have a level of support that made the stress factors drop down was just huge, man, but, when it comes to that part, that was a big change, the support I got from people buying the 2017, Swirly Destroyers, that first check I got was just like, my eyes were like, whoa, this can happen. Like, okay, like that was different, like, that was different, and that's all like you guys, that's all the fans, man. That's all I always tip the cap to the fans and the people that support me in the background, that really make this happen. So
super inspirational, man.
Yeah.
It seemed to me, because I joined Innova shortly after that happened, I feel like, and people wanted to know more about you. They wanted to know about you, the player. They wanted to know about the discs that you threw. And so I remember a couple of In the Bags coming out. And I remember one at the conference room at Ontario. And you said, my bag's pretty straightforward. And you kind of spelled it out. It was like you had a bunch of AVRs, you had a bunch of rocks. I think you had some T-birds. You might have had a Firebird tossed into the mix, and then you had a bunch of Destroyers. You're like, that's kind of it. It's not too flashy. And
nope.
And dude, like, your bag hasn't really changed much in that time. And I think it's kind of, you're a fascinating case study in a couple of things. One, throwing what works and limiting to that subset of a bag that is very consistent. And two, you're also a master of cycling discs.
Right.
So why don't you chat for a second, like, about your bag and how it's sort of unique in that you keep things pretty simple.
Okay, so I can kind of think back and think to a very specific point in my career where I'd say it was right before I turned to be a legitimate pro, somewhere around 2005-ish. When I wasn't sponsored, I had a mixed bag. I had a bunch of different molds in my bag, and I wasn't getting the results that I wanted. Honestly, that's what it all boils down to. This game is a game of misses, and you want to keep your misses as small as possible. And I didn't feel like at that point I knew everything I could possibly know, but I did know that there were some truths to this game that were very important, that certain discs had a certain characteristic at a certain speed. And when I kind of figured that out, and I just kind of went, okay, if I get a disc that's an extension of the next disc, that's an extension of the next disc, I don't have to change my swing all the time. You know what I mean? Like if a rock is a faster or a rock is a faster AVR, a T-bird is a faster rock, a Firebird is a faster T-bird, or not necessarily faster, but a more stable and it was just bumping it up one step at a time. And I didn't feel like I had to change what I physically knew how to do to make the disc work. It was an extension of one to the next. So it was just a different speed, like the disc, obviously a putter is not going to travel as fast as a destroyer. You know what I mean? But technically, if I put the same move on it, I'm going to get the same look at a different speed. And so it just kind of clicked to me like, wait a second, what do I need 14 molds in my bag for when all I need to do is there's, I guess back at that time, I guess you could say that there's 4 types of discs, right? Putters, mid-range, fairway drivers, distance drivers. So if I could get those 4 things down and then have each of those make the 3 different turns I need them to make, straight, hyzer, and anhyzer, then it simplified the whole game for me. I didn't have to put the pieces together and do all this math to create the shot that I wanted to, because I had the foundation of this disc does this at this speed. And then the extension of that would be this disc that does that same thing at the next speed or can handle more torque. So it was really just a math game for me at that point, and just kind of realizing, wait a second, all these, not to say that there isn't a place for the whole line of Innova discs, but for my speed and my abilities, a lot of that stuff didn't work. It didn't suit my game. So I never was really an understable plastic thrower. I didn't come from the hyzer flip era, per se. Like maybe when I first started, yes, before actual champion plastic came out, before the first candy plastic came out, everybody had to hyzer flip because there was only a whippet or something like that was super overstable, so I had to, that was all we had. I'm throwing stuff to 10 o'clock to go to 2 o'clock. That's a big swing across the ground. That's a lot of space to cover. But then when the stable plastic came out and things really got narrowed down for me, I was like, wait a second, my body likes to do something at a certain speed. This is my natural snap. Let's find the tools that best fit that. And it just happened to be that they were the staples of the Innova lineup. It's a very personal game. So that's the way that I approached it. And once it kind of clicked for me, it was hard to escape it because it worked. And I was seeing improvements in my game every year. And I was getting smarter. I was becoming a better competitor. I was learning how to control the disc better each year, but those discs never left because I knew what they did. I knew how to control them, and they fit what my physical attributes, what I brought to the game physically, they meshed. And I just stuck with it. I'm like, I'm not going to fix it if it ain't broken.
Your knowledge of the Innova catalog, your experience in the time that you have had with the discs that you trust, and your ability to connect with people has made you, I would say, one of the best instructors that Innova has on the team. You're very good
thank you.
at connecting and understanding what people need in their games. And so can you talk a little bit about your teaching philosophy? I know I've seen you do one-on-ones. I've seen you do group clinics. But I'm curious, when you go into any one of your teaching clinics, what are you hoping to get across to the person opposite you or the group opposite you?
I love this question, man. And honestly, just in the last year or two, I had an epiphany. And I feel like I've been trying to convey this message, but I didn't quite find the right way to describe it. But I think I got it now. I firmly believe that this game offers, especially people that are able-bodied, right? I'm sure there's people who play this game that may have some disabilities, some things that physically hold them back from doing all the things that maybe other players can do, right? Like most people, if they're somewhat, coordinated and somewhat athletic, I believe this game offers everybody the same options. The caveat is speed. We don't all have the same speed. My thing is, if you there's 3 ways to throw a disc, right? If you're a righty backhand player, you're either going to throw it with a hyzer, you're going to throw it flat, or you're going to throw it with anhyzer. Those options are available to everybody, right? There's only 3 styles of discs. Either they're going to be overstable, neutral, or understable, right? So, when you look at it that way, it's an experiment for each player to find the tools that work best for them within the construct that the game offers everybody. Everybody has the same options. It's how do you choose to utilize them. I don't throw as far as Simon Lizotte and Gannon Burr and Ricky Wysocki and Paul Macbeth, and the list goes on. I've never been the long arm on tour, but I still had the same options as them. I could still shape the disc the same way. Would it travel as far? No. But I could still make the same shot happen as far as the shape. And that's what I really try to help everybody understand, is that even if you aren't the most physically talented person in the world, you should still be able to make your disc fly hyzer if you tell it to. You should still be able to make your disc fly flat if that's what you want. It's a technique. It's not just your physical abilities and how hard you throw the disc. If you can't throw a destroyer straight, maybe try a Valkyrie. It's too much disc for you. If you can't throw the disc 65, 70 miles an hour, a destroyer does you no purpose other than a quick hook shot, because you're never going to make it fly straight. The numbers don't add up in your favor for a destroyer if that's your issue. So all I try to do is guide people to what I understand as solid technique and good fundamentals, and just keep it simple, man. The game offers us all the same options. When you shape a hyzer and you do it the right way, it's going to look the same as the guy next to you.
I think you've always been a master of the fundamentals, Philo.
No, it's not me, man. I got a lot of help from a lot of guys over the years that gave me little nuggets to go work on. It wasn't just that I figured it all out magically somehow. I was a student of the game.
Who's given you one of the best nuggets of advice, and what was it?
Champ, for sure. Climo, he said something to me that will never leave my brain. He said, "What's the most important part of your disc golf throw? What's the most important element of any throw?" And I was just I was running down everything, man. I was just throwing everything up against the wall, and I was wrong every time. And he said, "Can you control the finish of your disc? Can you make it stop where you want it? Can you control how it's going to come into the landing, how it's going to nestle up to the basket or skip off can you control the finish of the disc? Because if you're I was a loose cannon when I first started playing disc golf. I had a wicked arm. I was a quarterback. I knew how to create inertia and energy and transfer energy. I understood that, but I didn't understand how to control the finish of the disc. It was just ace or nothing for me for many years, especially coming from a course like Oak Grove where everything's well within my reach. I'm just throwing laser beams straight at the basket, and if I miss, I might get bogey because I couldn't putt back then, It was ace or nothing, and after a while, you had to realize you need to learn to tone things down and learn how to have speed control and be able to shape the disc in a different way to hit the air brakes or to use the ground play or whatever. There's a bunch of variables, right? But you got to be aware of that, and that's really what affects your scoring more than anything, is if you can make the disc stop where you want it to. Because if not, what are you doing out here, right? You're just throwing them wild, and there's no anticipation or anything. It's just, I'm going to throw it hard and cross my fingers, everything works out, and you're not going to be successful golfing that way. So I think that was one of the biggest tips that I got along the way, aside from any physical fundamental thing. As far as a mental nugget that stuck with me was, if you can't control the finish of your disc, you're going to struggle on this tour.
When I hear you talk about Climo's tip to you, that hints at strategy playing the game.
Yeah.
Our staff writer, Riley O'Neill, put together an article, and he talks about mental strategy. And I tell you what, you're a great resource for tips on mental strategy. So I've got a couple for you here from Riley that I think people would be fascinated to know what you think. And so we'll kick it off here. And the first one that he sent me is, this is when you're in competition and you're competing for the win. How do you reset for the next hole if you just took a bogey or worse?
Oh, that's easy, man. Like, I'm hitting the reset button instantly. One of my favorites, and it's funny because I think they added this on the Disc Golf Pro Tour stat line, birdie after bogey. If you can recover from your mistake right away and wipe the slate clean, then your mental stays in a better place. But if you get into this woe is me and you start questioning yourself and start talking crap to yourself, then the snowball is going down the hill the wrong direction. This game is way more mental than it is physical. And once you defeat yourself mentally, it's over, man. It's over. I don't see anybody recover from mentally bashing themselves in play. If you can do it in the right light that gives you a swift kick in the butt to keep going forward, it's okay. But if it's just something that's dragging you down and it's sucking your energy out of you and, it's making you believe you can't do it, it's the wrong way, And so for me, being able to come right back on the next hole and have intentions to attack the hole and you're going to make birdie attitude is crucial. It's kind of like that Michael Jordan button, like he doesn't accept failure, and even if he did fail, he used that to push himself forward. I think that in sports, golf in general, it's a game of failure, man. Like, you don't win golf. You win tournaments, but you don't ever really beat the game. You know what I mean? So like you got to have some grace with yourself. You got to be able to forgive yourself for a mistake and know that there's plenty more holes to go. You can recover. Let it go. You can be pissed off for a second, but you got to turn that anger into a positive on the next shot.
Let's sort of flip the script a little bit. Similarly, how do you keep level-headed if you just birdied or eagled a big hole? How do you keep yourself level?
Well, that's really funny you should ask that because typically after I do a really awesome shot like that, a hole-in-one, I usually hit a tree on my next drive. So I don't know, man. I haven't figured that one out, dude. It happens all the time. I had an ace. That's funny. Just like a couple of weeks ago, I went to Oak Grove and I played with the guy who introduced me to the sport. We got to link up. We were playing at Oak Grove and I aced hole one. I called my shot like Babe Ruth. I'm like, one hop, skipping in. Here we go. Throw a brand new destroyer. And sure enough, one hop, skip, bang, into the chains. Go to the next tee shot. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to race run this next one, and smack, hit the first tree available. And like, well, that happens pretty much all the time. So honestly, I don't think I've really got that one quite figured out. I think the moment we were talking about earlier with the albatross at Beaver State Fling and making the albatross, and like, I don't know how I got through the rest of that round. Honestly, I wanted to win so bad, that I wasn't going to let that shot distract me from the work I had ahead. And not everybody has the ability to do that, not everybody does. And I've failed at that more than I've succeeded by far. So do I have the answer for that? Like hardline? No. I try my best to stay focused and in the moment. Every shot I got to throw. And some days I do it better than others. And some days I'm sure a lot of people over the years have seen me railing on myself and talking to myself, walking up the fairway and popping myself up beside, backside of my skull because I'm frustrated. But then they see me turn around and turn it into a positive on the next shot, and I never quit. There's just like a diehard kind of thing that's inside of me that I don't know where it came from. It's just, I don't like to suck at things. I don't like to fail. Even though golf is a lot of failing, I did way more failing than succeeding in disc golf, but I just try to use it as fuel, I use it as fuel to push forward. And if it's a good thing, then you try to ride the wave. If it's a bad thing, you got to turn the script, flip the script, turn the page, refocus, and have good intentions on your next shot. That's the best that I could give you.
Well, this next question is another good one for you, being a veteran tour player. and have experienced this exact scenario literally hundreds of times. What's going through your mind the night before and the morning of a big tournament?
I don't think any disc golfer is going to have the same narrative running through their head from start to end. I think that's pretty unlikely. I think as you find yourself in different positions throughout the week or the weekend, you got to have, you have to be flexible in your goals, right? All of us want to win, but we're not all going to win every week, right? So you have to decide what's winning for you going to look like that week. For a number of years, for me, winning was cashing. I knew I wasn't going to beat Nate Doss and David Feldberg and Cale LaVisca and, Champ and, Josh Antons and Steve Ricos, and the list goes on and on. All the guys that I started off my professional career playing against, I knew I wasn't going to, they were better than me. No question about it. Was I physically talented? Sure, but they were better golfers than I was. So should I be walking out there expecting to beat them? No, I had to be realistic and say, what would be winning for me this week? And let's set a game plan up for that. And if I exceed that, great. Awesome. I did better than what my goals were. And you can take that to the bank and use that to push you down the road, right? But a lot of the times going into a tournament, I was extremely anxious. I didn't know which game was going to show up, if Philo's A game was going to show up or his B, C, D, E, F game was going to. I had no idea. And so a lot of it was just anxiety, performance anxiety of, I know I'm a talented disc golfer, but I haven't learned how to be consistent yet. And so I would say as a newer player, being very aware of where you fit in should help you decide how to formulate your goals. Because if you're brand new, you've been playing two years, or you've just showing up on tour, if you're thinking you're going to show up and put it to the best players in the world, that doesn't happen very often. Those are anomalies, And even then, those people who do show up, it's not like they just started playing disc golf. You know what I mean? They've been playing disc golf since they were teenagers or adolescents or, small children, toddlers playing with their dads or whatever. I didn't have that experience. I didn't find disc golf till I was 20. I didn't start caring about disc golf till I was 24. I didn't start competing at a high level till I was 26. So for me to come into the game my first rookie season and go, yeah, I'm going to win the Gentleman's Challenge, in Vegas, I'd be a fool to think that, So I had to have realistic expectations. I had to set goals that were attainable. And I learned something really important later in my career, that your warm-up should be to get you to the number where you play your best. So if you had a scale of 1 to 10, and if you looked at all the rounds you played and you think to yourself, on a scale to 1 to 10, what number was I competing at my best at? What number internally, were you docile and at a 3 or a 4, or were you super amped up at 8 or 9 or 10? And for me, it kind of fell in the middle, maybe a 6 or a 7, where I was under control. I was excited, but I wasn't too anxious. I wasn't too worried. So I had to find that. Some people are super high energy, super, competitive. Look at Rick. And he's marching around, and Nico LaCastro marching around, super intense, super, a lot of passion, a lot of intensity. And I just had to figure that out for myself to learn, where do I need to be to show up on the course and give my best effort. And it all starts in warm-up before the round starts. So my warm-up routine isn't very long, and it's all to get me to a place where I feel like I'm ready to compete. Bottom line. When I have my best, not just ready to compete, but ready to compete at my best, where I'm mentally in the right space, I'm physically in the right space, and spiritually in the right space. And when you get all three of those things working, you're usually going to have a good day. Good day.
I think you might have just answered this next question, but it's sort of a subset of that vibe. When you are getting ready to putt that 25-footer for the win, what's running through your mind in that moment?
I have a mantra. I tell myself, just like in the backyard, just like you do in practice, there's nothing different from this moment to the time you're sitting there telling yourself this is for the win in your backyard. Just like when you're a basketball player and you're counting down the 3, 2, 1 buzzer beater. And I put myself in that same space when I'm practicing. This means that much. This 25-footer is for the win, and everybody's watching you right now. It's the same feel. It's the same rhythm, And that's what it is. That's what it all boils down to. Is you practice the way you want to play. If I'm playing the way that I'm practicing, the numbers should be pretty close. So that's basically what it boils down to. Is I've always tried to force myself to practice the way that I want to compete. And I take the same mentality from practice onto the disc golf course in between the ropes when it counts.
Is there anything else that stands out for you, knowing that you're probably speaking to, let's just say, the relative beginner or the first time tournament player, or maybe the aspiring amateur to want to someday be in your shoes? Is there anything else that stands out in your mind when it comes to mental strategy?
You got to be a stubborn SOB, man. It doesn't mean that you have a big ego per se. There is some of that in there, but you got to keep the ego in check and earn your skills. There's no shortcut to that. And all of us have a different path to get there. Like I said earlier, we're not all equal when it comes to talent. It's very clear that there's there's disc golfers that are on another level talent-wise from the rest of us. Like, you can't debate it because the numbers prove it, right? Like, if we were all equally as talented as Paul McBeth, then we'd all have a ring on, right? But we don't. He's got 6 and we got none, most of us. So there's definitely a line where you can see there's a difference in talent, but that shouldn't have anything to do with your personal work ethic. And I think that's the biggest difference between amateurs and professionals. I've been saying this for years, man. My stepdad told me this saying, and he's not lying, man. Amateurs practice till they get it right, and pros practice till they can't do it wrong.
You have mentioned in the past that one of the best tips that you ever received was from Ken Climo.
Yep.
And it had to do with ground play and managing the finish of the disc.
Correct.
How do players learn that? How do players understand ground play? Control it.
Well, you're a product of your environment in life and in disc golf, right? And I came from Southern California, which is very park friendly, hyzer, deuce or die. Every time I left here, I was terrible for a number of years because I didn't understand the terrain I was playing in. In an environment like, let's say, the East Coast, where things are really narrow and tight, and you're not going to get a lot of ground play because there's trees everywhere. You know what I mean? Like, you learn to be more A to B, and you're trying to float the disc into that spot, or, keep the disc in a very small space in the middle of the fairway. So you're not really relying on ground play so much. You're just throwing the disc with the appropriate speed to get from A to B. You play in somewhere like Southern California where you got, 350-foot hyzers all day, and you can bounce the disc 30 feet from the basket and curl up right next to the bucket. You don't have to worry about trying to just drop it under the basket with a putter or a rock. You can throw your fast, thick rim disc and play the big flare skip or use the dirt to your advantage. Again, it's a lot of repetition. You got to do it a bunch of times to kind of get the feel for it. It's not something that just you do it once and then you just got it forever. It doesn't work that way in life, right? You got to continue to work the system. You got to work the numbers.
First catch up for 2023, and I think we should just plan to do a couple more of these throughout the season, because I know that you're going to have moments to want to share with people throughout the year. So this was really cool just to catch up with you and hear what's going on in your world, and to give people some, like you always do, man. You always give people really good fundamentals, whether it's about playing the game, strategy, how to enjoy it, what it means. You're really good. You're a very centered person, and I think your perspective on all of this stuff, dude, it doesn't get told enough. So I look forward to you and I catching up even more throughout the season. I'm excited for what you've got ahead of you with the Disc Golf Network and continuing to watch you on commentary. Excited to see you out on the course when you get an opportunity to do it. I'm sure you're traveling internationally. So you as a
Thailand's
global
coming up.
ambassador, dude, as a global ambassador, could disc golf have a better personality than Philo Braithwaite? I don't think so. So
I'm just doing the best I can, man. I have a lot of
keep
passion
doing what
for
you're
this
doing,
game.
man.
I love being a part of this, man. That's all I really want to do, is just to be a part of it. I don't expect to be the man. I just want to be a part of it. You know?
You're a fantastic part of it, Philo. And again, thanks for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you soon.
Quite welcome, sir. Thank you.
All right, man.